So I'm Regina. I have 3 children with disabilities. 2 of them are most definitely vaccine injured. So my oldest son was born with some pretty significant birth injuries. And so, we struggled with that for a while. And then when my second son was born, I was a lot more conscious of, things, and everything went beautifully on birth, and I had this beautiful, healthy baby. And then he got his 2-month shots. And that's when he started getting the really high fevers, and he would start crying all night, and he started having seizures, and his whole body would just start jerking. His whole body, just everything would jerk like that, and he'd have 10 to 15 of those a day. And so I took him in, and they kept saying, no, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that. Sometimes these things just happen. We don't know what causes it. And they'd run all these tests, and they'd tell me that, it's better actually to not know what causes it. And so he would, we continued to vaccinate him, and he kept getting worse, and he just started losing more and more skills. He stopped making eye contact with us altogether. He never really developed any decent speech at all. He'd bang his head on anything he could get his head on. Floors, furniture, walls, just everything. He would just bang his head nonstop. And his head was, really round. And so by about 20 months, they were saying he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and he was moderate in severity. But at this point, he still had, no words whatsoever, and just a bunch of guttural noises is all he would make. And I was pregnant with my 3rd son, and so just keeping up with all of his medical stuff was just so overwhelming. And so at a certain point, I started to get behind on my 3rd son's well baby checkups, and so I took him in for catch-up shots, and they gave him a bunch of shots. And so I took him home, and then over the next couple days, I noticed that my baby was bruising all over his body. Started out I'd give him a bath and I'd see a couple bruises here and there, and then put him to bed, and he had the zip-up pajamas that covered his whole body, and woke up the next morning to unzip him and change his diaper, and his entire body was black and blue and purple, and he was just completely bruised up everywhere. And so I ran him to the pediatrician, and I said, I was like, they didn't even want to see me, and I was just like, no, you need to see my child, you don't understand what's going on. And so they did a bunch of testing, and it was ITP, immunothrombocytopenia disease. And so that raised the most red flags to me, because it was just so visual and just so quick right after the other one had happened. And that's when I started doing research online, and I actually was able to get a streaming of Dr. Wakefield talking about ITP being a side effect of vaccines, and everything just started to fall together. And I started looking at my sons and their vaccine schedules, and when they had, when Mikey had started seizing, and all of these things just really started to line up, and I was figuring out the pattern there. And that was the last set of shots any of my children got. But he also, so my middle son Mikey, he has seizures, he has autism, he has a Chiari brain malformation, which basically is his brain got so swollen it started swelling out of his skull and blocking his spinal canal, and there was no fluid flow from his spine to, your brain is supposed to be floating in this nice happy fluid, and he had no flow happening, and so he had to have brain surgery too. and they removed back part of his skull and back portion of the brain by the cerebellum, and so we've had quite a journey with all of these things.
I'm so sorry. It's just horrific. Totally horrific.
It's
people are
pretty
sending
bad.
you loads of love and hugs and
Thank you.
love and love and love and love and love. But yeah,
I do what I can now to just share my story, because I didn't know any better. And I sat down with my kids and we watched The Greater Good and Vaxxed at home. We streamed them, and I apologized to my kids because I just didn't know. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was being the good mommy and taking my kids to get the shots like every good mommy is supposed to, and I hurt my kids by doing that.
You didn't do anything. You didn't do anything. Only got